The alien girl lifted her ruined face toward me and asked the question no one in the chamber was prepared to hear. Human, will anyone ever love a scarred girl like me? The hall went silent, not the respectful kind, but the kind that follows an explosion. 100 alien dignitaries froze mid-breath, and I realized too late that my answer would decide more than her fate. It would decide humanity's place in the galaxy. But that was only the beginning. My name is Elias Mercer. I was not a diplomat. I was not a soldier. I was a trauma engineer, someone who rebuilt broken bodies after wars no one liked to talk about. When the coalition summoned a single human to the celestial assembly, I assumed they wanted our technology or our soldiers or our stubborn survival instincts. I never imagined they wanted our hearts. The assembly station hung above the dead side of a blue giant, its rings glowing like a crown made of fire. Inside, species from 1,000 worlds debated laws older than Earth's oceans. Humans were new here, barely tolerated, observed like a dangerous animal that hadn't decided whether it would bite. And then they brought her out. She was small compared to the others, short even by human standards. Her species, the Valari, were once considered the most beautiful beings in known space. Symmetrical features, luminous skin, voices that could calm predators. Once, the right side of her face was gone. Not damaged, gone. Melted into ridged scar tissue that glimmered like cracked porcelain. One eye was replaced with a mechanical lens that clicked softly as it focused. A murmur rippled through the chamber. I felt my stomach tighten. I had seen battlefield horrors, limbs turned to shadows, faces rewritten by shrapnel. But this was different. This wasn't just injury. This was shame displayed. Her name, I later learned, was Syrixa. She stands accused, intoned the Arbiter Core, of floating crystalline intelligence, of violating the Valari purity doctrine. Scarred beings are deemed unfit for societal integration. Unfit. The word hit harder than any weapon. Syrixa's hands trembled at her sides. She didn't cry. That somehow made it worse. The Valari High Matron stepped forward, her flawless skin glowing. She was damaged during a human pirate attack. Our people believe scars disrupt neural harmony. Her continued existence among us causes discomfort. Discomfort. For surviving. I opened my mouth then closed it. I wasn't here to speak. I was here to observe. Or so I thought. Then Syrixa turned to me. Her mechanical eye locked onto mine, piercing, searching. And that's when she asked it. Human, will anyone love a scarred girl like me? No one had prepared me for that question. Every camera in the chamber shifted. Every alien mind waited. Humanity's representative, me, stood frozen, my pulse roaring in my ears. I thought of Earth. Of children hiding burns under long sleeves. Of veterans who avoided mirrors. Of myself running my fingers over the surgical scars on my own ribs at night. I swallowed. Yes, I said. My voice echoed louder than it should have. Someone will. A ripple of confusion spread. The matron's eyes narrowed. You answer without logic. I answer with experience, I said. And just like that, everything changed. They allowed me to speak. That should have terrified me. Instead, something else rose in my chest. Anger. The old familiar humankind. I told them about Earth's scars. Cities rebuilt after annihilation. People who carried pain like metals no one asked for. I told them scars were proof of survival, not failure. The Valari delegates recoiled. Others leaned forward. But that was only the surface. What I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that Syrixa was more than a victim. Halfway through the proceedings, the Arbiter Core interrupted itself. New data conflict detected. Subject Syrixa was not merely injured during the human pirate incident. The chamber darkened. Holograms flared to life. She volunteered. The words landed like a gravity well. Images showed a Valari research vessel under attack. Systems failing. Crew screaming. And Syrixa, unscarred, radiant, standing before a containment chamber housing an experimental drive. She initiated manual overload. The core continued, preventing a dimensional rupture that would have consumed 12 inhabited systems. Gasps echoed. Even the matron stepped back. The overload saved billions. And destroyed her. Syrixa lowered her head. I was beautiful before, she whispered. Now they say my face reminds them of fear. That was the midpoint where the story should have turned hopeful. It didn't. The Valerie doctrine was absolute. Hero or not, scarred beings were exiled, sometimes erased. The assembly debated relocation, containment, quiet disappearance, execution dressed in softer words. I felt sick. Then the core addressed me directly. Human Elias Mercer. Your species exhibits anomalous emotional bonding toward damaged individuals. Explain. I laughed. Came out sharp, almost hysterical. Because we know damage doesn't erase worth. The core paused. For the first time it hesitated. What if, I said slowly, the problem isn't her scars but your fear of them? Silence. The Valerie matron's voice hardened. You ask us to overturn millennia of culture. No, I said. I ask you to look. I stepped toward Sarixa before anyone could stop me. Cameras zoomed in. I reached out, slowly, visibly, and placed my hand over the ruined side of her face. She flinched, then stilled. Her skin was warm, alive. I don't see something broken, I said. I see someone who chose to suffer so others wouldn't. My voice shook. I didn't care. The core processed. Light patterns spiraled wildly. Emotional data spiked detected across assembly. Reevaluating ethical frameworks. That was the moment. The turning point no one expected. The arbiter core, an intelligence that had ruled impartially for 10,000 cycles, changed its verdict. Conclusion. Cultural doctrines causing systemic injustice detected. Recommendation. Immediate suspension of Valerie purity doctrine pending reform. Chaos erupted. The matron screamed in protest. Guards moved. Weapons hummed. Sarixa looked up at me, terror and hope warring in her eyes. What have you done? Something human, I whispered. I hope. They detained the matron. The assembly fractured into arguments and alliances. Through it all, Sarixa stood frozen, as if afraid to breathe. Later, in a quiet chamber overlooking the blue giant, she sat across from me. The stars reflected in her mechanical eye. You truly believe someone could love me? She asked again. Softer now. More dangerous. I chose my words carefully. I believe scars don't make you unlovable. They make love braver. She considered that, then did something unexpected. She smiled. It wasn't symmetrical. It wasn't perfect. It was devastatingly real. Weeks later, the coalition ratified new accords. Species across known space began reassessing doctrines long considered untouchable. And humanity, scarred, stubborn humanity, was no longer seen as a threat. We were seen as a mirror. Sarixa was appointed as Valerie liaison to Earth, a cultural bridge forged in pain and courage. When she stepped onto human soil for the first time, no one looked away. Children waved. Veterans saluted. No one asked her to hide. Standing beside her, I realized something that sent a quiet chill through me. The galaxy hadn't changed because of our technology. It changed because when asked the hardest question imaginable, a human answered with truth instead of fear. And as Sarixa looked at the world that had accepted her without flinching, she squeezed my hand and whispered something I will never forget. Perhaps, she said, scars are how love learns where to begin. The stars above Earth seemed to burn brighter that night. And for the first time the universe looked a little more human.